Hi, I'm Aaron the Librarian. Today we will be talking about copyright and libraries. I have been a librarian for about 4 years. Since this time, the topic of copyright and trademarking has become a difficult and hotly debated issue, especially among librarians. My guess is that besides copyright lawyers, librarians have the most know-how and knowledge concerning the ins and outs of copyright law. I will say that there isn't a concise agreement among librarians nowadays concerning copyright. In this YouTube, I will discuss the many topics and issues that I have encountered among librarians concerning copyright, and hopefully this will give some insight into why this is a difficult topic and the ways that librarians are handling it. I think it's important to discuss a little bit about the history of copyright. Naturally, as a librarian, I love to read. I like books, I like information. My whole goal as a librarian has always been to connect information to people. The whole goal of libraries during the Progressive era in the early 1900s was to create an open and free university whereby those without the means and money could gain knowledge and better their lives. At least this was the main goal of Andrew Carnegie, the 19th century steel magnate who contributed a large part of his fortune to create this wonderful library system that we have today in the United States. Historically, it's fascinating to understand the evolution and creation of copyright. Stealing others' works to create your own has always been going on since the beginning. Works such as the Odyssey and even the Bible are probably the creations and inputs of many, many people. In the 1700s, the United Kingdom started to create laws that would develop into modern-day copyright laws that we have today. The best way that I can describe its history in the United States is through Charles Dickens. In America, Dickens was just as famous as he was in England. And what would happen is as soon as a book or article was published by Dickens in England, a man would race to the boat with the new book and he would sail off to America, where he would sell the book to an American newspaper or publisher. Well, in America, they were willing to print the books without giving Dickens or any other British writer any compensation. Now, understandably, this made Dickens upset. And when he would come on these tours to America, much of the time he would harp against the tax copyright laws that existed in America. It's also worth noting that many American writers such as Hawthorne and Washington Irving didn't gain their fortunes from the United States publishing companies. Rather, they received their fortunes from the European and British market. In fact, Edgar Allan Poe died penniless even though his works were widely read and known in America. And so you can see copyright has always been a difficult and contentious issue in America. Americans don't like to be told to pay for something. It used to be that writers and publishers were fully on board with libraries. Publishers were able to sell a lot of books. Patrons were able to access free information. It was a win-win situation for all parties. But since the advent of ebooks, many difficulties have arisen, and the fact is many libraries and librarians have felt like they've been put out in the cold by many publishing companies. When the World Wide Web exploded in 1995, the information age was heralded into existence. Librarians were excited and big proponents of its whole existence. For many of us, the first time we ever accessed the internet was inside a library. This was certainly the case for me. However, as time has gone by, many librarians have become discouraged. What was meant as a gateway and a whole library of freedom to information has become unavailable for many patrons. Information and access to the information has become a big business. If you think of all of the databases and publishing companies that are making millions and billions of dollars off of these ebooks, it's astounding. On top of this, many libraries struggle during these difficult economic times to financially support ebooks, technology, and databases, which are a huge burden to local libraries. Because of economic difficulties, many librarians have had to look for different means to support their livelihood. I mentioned my own case with copyright infringement. A few years ago when I started my own website, I had found a cool article from my grandmother on the Mountain West Digital Library. And I thought, all right, well, I'm going to share this with all of my friends and family, and it's really cool. They've got to see this. And so I took that oral history report and I put it on my website. Well, one day I received an email, basically a cease and desist letter from the University of Utah that wanted me to remove that oral history report. And I was astounded because, one, it was my grandma, it was somebody that was really personal. But second, I thought, all right, well, who are you as a librarian to tell me what I can't put on my website? And so, it's kind of strange, but sadly, a lot of our librarians have become copyright enforcers. Well, the reason why is because a lot of this information is worth money. And so, I understand that a lot of universities don't want this information to be put, online. On the other hand, how do I transfer this information to my family? In 2011, while I was at a library, I began seeing SOPA flyers and stickers everywhere. And of course I Googled it and researched what the Stop Online Piracy Act was. I became greatly interested in the case of Aaron Swartz, a young online freedom activist who brought many of these problems and difficulties to our attention. And just to explain a little bit about Aaron Swartz, he was a internet website founder, Reddit, I think not WikiCommons, but all of these other websites were actually started by Aaron Swartz, and he was a great proponent of online information, online freedom with information. And in 2008, what he did is he downloaded and released about 2.7 million federal court documents stored in the public access to court electronic records, also known as PACER. And anyway, he let everybody have access to them. Well, his point is that the government had hired this private company to gather all of this information, and then they would charge people like 10 cents a copy. Well, as you can imagine, if you take all of the billions and billions of copies that were taken from this PACER, the money really adds up. And so his whole point was that a lot of this free information shouldn't be given to these private companies. And then also in 2011, what he did is he took a lot of documents from JSTOR, which is a popular database, and he made it available to everybody. And of course, JSTOR wasn't too happy with this, and so he was arrested. Well, I guess he was so discouraged and distraught about the whole case that in 2011 he committed suicide. Well, right before that, he was one of the main opponents of the Online Piracy Act. And, if you want to know more about this, you're definitely welcome to look more up on SOPA. But anyway, the American Library Association posthumously gave Aaron Swartz the James Madison Award. And so my whole point is to show you how librarians are sort of caught in the middle. On the one side, they definitely want a lot of this information to be accessed. They definitely want it to be made public. On the other hand, I think that they definitely want to see writers and people that publish this information, they want to see them compensated as well. And so it's a really difficult balancing act with the internet and with the World Wide Web. In conclusion, these are definitely interesting times to be a librarian. Now more than ever, our mission and values are being challenged. And I, as a librarian, I definitely feel that copyright is important, as I said, but on the other hand, I feel that a lot of information that was once available to our patrons has been shut off, and I definitely don't like that. And anyway, I would like to thank you for listening to my YouTube. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. Thank you.